Since this is a video about member-focused technology at athletic clubs, let's take a look at what and where it can be deployed. First, mobile devices have enabled self-service from anywhere. This means that the member does not need a human intermediary to let him or her know what is available or to reserve a court. As the airline industry discovered, self-service was efficient and effective for their customers and allowed them to redeploy the human touch where the service is used, namely the plane, rather than at the point of sale at the reservation. The same is true for members and clubs. The second is cloud computing, which allowed intelligent processing of requests from members so that self-service did not result in the domination by a few of the available court times. The algorithms in cloud computing assured that the resources of the club are equitably allocated based on rules. The downside of self-service and equitable allocations is that members learn they can control their own schedule and plans and target particular dates and times to play, show up for the reservation, and then leave shortly afterwards. The social gathering that was a hallmark of a club atmosphere has been replaced with planning. It is an unfortunate byproduct of technology-enabled efficiency and effectiveness. But in the current environment where social gathering has perforce been replaced by social distancing, the socializing value of the club is being undercut even further. Although it can be said that technology is also coming to the rescue of the clubs by enabling them to manage crowds effectively and in conformity with health guidelines, while they discover how to adapt to the changing expectations of membership. Well, let's take an example. At Mount Tam, of the roughly 150 regular tennis players, when the system was released on the iOS and Android devices, only a few have not downloaded the app and used it. Before the shutdown of the facility due to the COVID-19, over 100 members regularly use the app as their primary access method to find open times, reserve courts, and to remind them of dates and times that they had those reservations. Even in the fitness center, after the indoor facility was closed, the browser version and the apps became a crucial component of access for the members to gain knowledge of virtual events such as yoga and Pilates that were being offered through Zoom. The rest of this video focuses on the use of the technology to help the members request and reserve the resources and activities at the club.
Let's take an example of cloud computing and its effect before and after with its intelligent processing.
Under the old system, 28, 29 people were dominating the 56 open courts that were reservation.
That's always how it works.
Well, once they put this into place, it evened it out, so now 50 members were able to get to 56 courts. And what the 28 were afraid of is that, oh my God, I'm not going to get the courts that I want. But what they found out was they're still getting the courts they want. So the way the system was set up in order to allow distribution, equitable distribution, is that the reservation, the first pass at reservations, is where members who want to play will put in their requests for court time.
So let's take a look at how this appears on both the mobile device as well as on the browser. The member logs in with their email, and then it verifies that it's a correct email. And from there, they then go to select requests, and the different venues you have, they pick that. And then if they've registered requests before, it'll actually bring those back up, in which case they can change them by canceling out what they had chosen before and then selecting new ones. As soon as they've finished their selection, they push update, tells them it's successful, and voila, they're done.
as an admin control how many requests they can make during a week. And it basically accumulates all those requests over a period of time. And then there's an algorithm that runs at the end of that cycle. And it has a scoring system that it uses for the different members, depending on how many reservations they've had in the past and how many requests they put in, et cetera.
To simplify, everybody piles their requests in, and then at a certain time, you press a button, and the algorithm decides who gets what court.
Exactly. It completes the schedule and also initiates the new request form for the following week.
Once they get a reservation, the player actually has to go online and confirm that he's accepting the reservation. And that represents an acknowledgement on their part. They know that they're supposed to show up on that particular day.
When you use a mobile device, it displays the reservations a little differently due to the difference in real estate that you have on your screen.
And you'll see on the left, it displays for you the courts that you've been assigned. And then on the right on your iPhone, if you want to pick up the time, you put in like Tuesday, I want in the morning or the afternoon, and then it will display for you all available courts times in that afternoon. At which point in time, you just go down and click on one, and then you will get assigned.
Once the schedule has been published, then the open courts display, and the member, if using the browser, just finds an open slot and clicks on it, and then it confirms.
Human nature is I want to play, so I'm going to box up and make as many reservations as I possibly can during the week for any time I would want to play. And even if I pare those down, what if I don't show up for one or two?
Yep. Well, first of all, to deal with the first part of your rules that you set up is you can specify how many reservations you will allow a member to have in a week. In the case of Mount Tam, it's limited to 4. You can also specify they can't have more than 1 reservation per day. Limit the number of requests that they make. And again, you don't have to open up all the courts. You can just say, our busy time is 9, 10, 11 is the morning time. So we want to essentially have a lottery-oriented system for those times to distribute it. But afternoons don't have a lot of scheduling or a lot of conflicts, so we just leave those open. However, even though you might not be assigning those times, they can still show up in your schedule as open so that people can come in and click on open to reserve those. Is that you can set these rules up where you're reserving most of the courts now, but when it relaxes where you don't have to do that anymore, you just go in and change the rules and you take courts 4 and 5 off the reservation and they become social courts.
Okay. No, that's eminently reasonable.
And we would still have like our, the senior men or whatever, they'd have their court blocked off. So, I mean, they'd still come whoever comes out of that group and whatever other groups there are. So,
yep.
Okay. And the calendar that we're looking here on the browser. So like, there I see cleaning. So we would put in any, if certain courts have lessons, we block those all off. If there's a certain event going on a court, we block that off ahead of time.
Yeah.
And like this one has been blocked off. Okay.
Right.
And it looks
yes.
like they're color coded.
There's 2 ways to actually block a court. One is it's a hard block. You actually go into the court setting and you know that every Monday morning you're going to do cleaning. So you block the courts. And when the user looks at it, they can see that the reason it's blocked is for cleaning. The other is a calendar event. So if Chris is going to schedule an instruction or have one of your instructors do a class, and they're going to use a set of courts, it'll be set up in the calendar, and then the calendar blocks here. So that's not a permanent block. That one's just an event block that may exist just for this week, or it could exist for a couple weeks, but it's not a permanent block.
People that don't have access to a phone or computer.
Now, what they, and there are some of those also at the club, what they did, which worked out real well, is they put a laptop up at the front desk. So when they came in, they could look at the schedule, like this one, which is what you see in the center, and they could see exactly what was available. Now, one of the other things that we have is what we call a virtual administrator. The virtual administrator is set up again by the primary admin, but you authorize the virtual admin, who then automatically at midnight or whatever time you set up, automatically runs the schedule. So you set it up one time with the time you want it to do it, and whatever message it is that you want to go out to the members, and then you never have to touch it again.
Okay, all right. So the email goes out letting them know that it's live and we're in business, and then.
Exactly.
All right, got it.
So what makes now particularly appropriate to put in place a reservation system that takes advantage of the technology, but also is appropriate for the time, not only now, but after the current crisis ends?
Concerning coronavirus and all this is that they don't want people checking in. They want them to go to the courts independently. So that was one of the reasons why this new idea seemed favorable to me, is take out that, we flipped around. Before we were just love social events, and I'm like you, I wanted personal interaction. That's what makes it a club. But guess what?
Yeah.
We're gonna, for the next few months, we're going to lose that. And so we have to deal with it.
Yeah,
and,
why we would shift right now is because for that very reason, because it's not been that way. But in this, the only way we're going to be able to stay open, assuming that it opens and do evening courts and that sort of stuff, is to go straight on reservations and have some rules around what you can do and what you can bring and when you can be there and how many people can play and how you get in and out and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's exactly what we're looking at. That right now makes more sense than ever. You're exactly right.